Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, where you will find interesting guests and discussions about cutting-edge topics to assist you on your journey. The Quantum Guide Show is ideally suited to the newly awakened and for those who feel isolated by their newfound beliefs. The mind, body, and spirit thrive when we have a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change that we wish to see in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels, and share this show with your friends. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today, my returning guest is Carmen Turner-Schott. Carmen is an author, a licensed clinical social worker, psychological astrologer, and teacher with national and international clientele. She is a published author of 7 books, and her 2 newest books are Sun Signs, Houses and Healing, Building Resilience and Transform Your Life Through Astrology, and The Mysteries of the 12th Astrological House, Fallen Angels. Carmen has been researching the 8th and 12th astrological houses and trauma, healing, and transformation for the past 25 years, and she believes that everyone can benefit from understanding what makes them feel happy, passionate, and emotionally fulfilled. Today, we're going to discuss how astrology can build resilience and transform your life. The sun sign has a powerful influence on every area of your life. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast. Carmen, welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I really appreciate you being here, especially because, the way things worked out with your schedule, you actually had to take time off. So yeah. I really, really appreciate you and all the super interesting things that you have to say. So do you want to talk a little bit about astrology, maybe how you got into astrology and what, either surprised you or just really made an impression on you that made you want to incorporate that actually into your practice?
Sure. So, I started studying astrology when I was about 16. And it kind of spurred from some mystical, strange experiences that I had that I couldn't explain, and just being very sensitive and intuitive. And I would dream things that would happen, and I would kind of sense and know things, and then I couldn't explain it. And so I wanted to know why I was different than most of the people, my family and my friends. And I think most people just thought I was kind of imaginative, and silly.
Yeah.
But I was always very practical, like a practical person. I'm a Virgo, so I've always been very practical and very spiritual, on both. So when I got my first astrology book, I didn't know anything about it. I don't even know what kind of led me to get an astrology book, but that was the first thing that I bought at a little mystical bookstore in St. Louis, Missouri called Mystic Valley, that's still there today. It's kind of a neat story. I walked in there and looked at the little Virgo book and got it. And then I bought Astrology, A Cosmic Science by Isabel Hickey. That was my first astrology book I ever got back in the 90s. This was like, I don't even know, 1993, 1994. So I got the book and started looking and reading. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to know what my chart is. So I did my own chart. And back then, we used to do it by hand. I learned how to do it by hand with the ruler and draw everything. We didn't have computer programs like we have today. And when I figured out, oh my goodness, my sun is in the 12th house, and my moon is in the 8th house, I started looking that up, and I'm like, wow, this is validating my experiences. How is this accurate? How is this so, I resonated with it so much. And so I wanted to know more. And I thought, I can't deny this is my personality. These are things I've experienced, loss of a loved one at a young age, with the 8th house moon, all kinds of, feeling things, dreaming things, 12th house sun, being spiritual, believing in angels, all these things that I just naturally was that way since I was little. And I don't remember a lot about being little, being really little, but I remember I always had to have a nightlight on. I was afraid of the dark, just very sensitive to things, which I was born that way. So when I looked at the chart, I realized, okay, I want to use this to help other people and help myself. So, I ended up, after I graduated, I went to become a psychology major, and I wanted to be a social worker or a psychologist and be a counselor. So I started practicing doing consultations at 19 for free for people in St. Louis, at college, friends, family. And I meet people at St. Louis Bread Company and just do their chart. And I started doing research. And when I would describe certain placements, based on all my studies and just meeting people, people would start to cry. People would say, "Oh my gosh, how did you know that?" And I'm like, "It's your chart. I'm not just making this up. This is a science." So I started realizing this was accurate and I can't deny it. And so it became my passion, and I just kept studying and learning, and it's a symbolic language. So astrology is all symbols. So some people are very overwhelmed by astrology, when you open up a book, because it's all these symbols and you have to know them to know what it means. And so I practiced for years memorizing all of the symbols and writing them down, the symbols of all the signs, the planets, and just memorizing the energies and the personality traits of the planets, of the signs and the houses, and just learning everything I could learn. And I just practiced and as I started doing this in graduate school, some people said, "You really need to charge money or something, because this is like a deep therapy session," right? So I started doing donation based, and just created a website and was writing articles on the side. And I've always done that astrology practice, even though I've been in a normal mainstream social work job. I started out working with teenagers and children, runaway teens, and children that were in adoption preservation, children and teens that had trauma, that had been abused, and did home visits, etc., for many years. And then, kind of transferred my skills into domestic violence, child abuse prevention. And then I got into sexual assault prevention and response, advocacy, victim advocacy. And I've done private practice, and I worked with trauma victims age 2 to age 90. I mean, all ages, and did group therapy with teens that had experienced trauma. I've done a little bit of everything through these years, but I've always had astrology awareness and expertise in my brain, to use as a tool. I never forced it on anyone. If it came up from a client, then I would, go with it. But I never would bring it up with people unless they were open and they brought it up. Right. And so, but it was something that I always knew. So I'd look, when you do an intake form or you meet someone, "Hey, when's your birthday?" And I would know their basic sun sign. And so that would be how I would connect with them. And I could see their personality traits coming out, and I would give them tips and just from what I knew about astrology. And so a lot of it I kept secret. A lot of what I did was still kind of behind the scenes, that a lot of people didn't know this about me for many years. Now I'm out here more, on these radio shows and stuff and writing books. So now, I'm kind of out there, and more people know about it now. That even my cousin had said to me, "I didn't know that you wrote books." She had no idea that I had a book, right? And I said, "Well, I don't put it on my personal pages. I have my business page, but unless you Google me and know my maiden name, you wouldn't know." Right. And so now more people, I'm more comfortable just being me and not hiding, my interest and hobbies, and only sharing it with people that I know are open. I'm actually sharing it with people in a practical way to open up their mind day to day, whether it's my family, my friends, my coworkers, with little things like the full moon, how it affects us and our emotions, the Mercury retrograde, which we're going through right now. I had some technical difficulties yesterday, last night I was supposed to be on a show. I was on a radio. It was a call in, and I'm talking about Leo moon, and we were, rolling with it, and nobody was there. I'm like, hello, and she got knocked out of her own show. So,
Oh,
so she couldn't get back in. I couldn't get. So we just said we're going to have to do another one in July. So Mercury retrograde affects us all, and a
mhm.
lot of people are having computer technical difficulties, at work, and different things people are telling me, and I just laugh because I know what it is. But I try to teach people those basic things and show them that this is energy, and it's
Mhm.
just like, the moon affects the tides of the ocean. Of course it would affect our emotional nature, and we have a lot of research in the moon, that the moon cycles affect life on earth, and they affect us. So in my moon signs houses and healing book that comes out May 8th, I'm launching it right now. I
You have a
talk about,
copy you could hold up,
yeah,
Carmen? Yeah,
yeah.
please do. Plug your book because it just is so
Thank you.
interesting. And I'll
Thank
also
you.
put the link below the show that
Thank
we
you.
did about the moon
Yes.
signs and the houses in healing. So you can go and watch that too. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, this is it. It's pre-order right now. And then if you order it now, Barnes and Noble has like a 25% off pre-order 25 that goes on today, tomorrow. And you can get a discount copy, but it'll be mailed to you May 8th. Officially, it'll be out there if you did order it and available. But I really wrote the moon book because I have a sun signs houses and healing book as well, if you want to learn about the basic sun sign. But the moon sign to me is so powerful because it shows our inner nature, how we feel, how we show emotion, where we find emotional fulfillment, security, comfort, happiness, all of those things, which is really what we really need to connect with. And so in here, I have each chapter on each moon sign. So there's 12 sun signs. There's, the moon will be in one of the 12 signs when you're born. And
Mhm.
the moon changes signs in the sky every 2 to 3 days. So it's really important to know your time of birth to really get an accurate moon sign placement. And you can do that online on astro.com, or there's moon calculator apps. If you don't know your exact time of birth, if you know it's between 2 and 4, you can pretty much narrow down your moon sign. So you can, look up your moon sign in my book, in your chapter. And I talk about how the full moon affects you, and for each moon sign, which will affect each moon sign differently. And, based on my research of talking with people and self-care tips, different things that help those people as well. So, that's kind of what I do to use this as a tool to help people. And it's my passion.
Mhm. Now I got a question I hope you can answer, and that
Okay.
is, um, I understand that the planets and everything is all synchronized and in orbit and everything, and that when we're born, depending on where everything's located, gives us our astrological sun sign. Now, what I'm wondering is, and I've toyed with this and can't quite
Mm-hmm.
figure it out, what is the difference in astrology between everything being fate or set in stone, because all
Mm-hmm.
these systems are very methodical, very predictable, and
Mm-hmm.
free will, where we get to take our
Oh yeah.
circumstances and do what we want with it. So I'm just wondering,
Oh yeah.
where is there a line between the two? Are they mixed
Yeah.
together? Carmen, what's your take on that?
That's a great question. I talk about this a lot. It really is a little bit of both. And I'll give you an example. So from what I've experienced, I'm also a Akashic Records consultant. So I open up, I do the Akashic Records like Edgar Casey, when I do astrology charts. And the reason is this. I had a friend years ago that was very intuitive, and she would see people and she would kind of see their future, and she didn't know what that was. She was from another country. She didn't, and just never really shared with anyone. And when I met her, and when I would look at a chart and tell her what I saw in an astrology chart, that's exactly what she would see in their life. And so
Interesting.
she was reading the soul records of these people. And when I would pull up their birth chart, it would match what she was, energies, experiences, different things I would analyze. Like, for instance, my belief is that we choose to be born when we're born for the karma and the experiences and the challenges, and we have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, but there's a reason we come in at the time we do, and the parents that we have and everything in our life. And there's a lot of research about it that, we set contracts with people and plan everything, that there's a belief that everything is planned. Mm-hmm. I believe it's a little bit of both. I do believe that God gives us free will, because I am a Christian astrologer. I am a Christian. So I do believe that we have free will, but I believe that there's more to it than that, because I believe that we also have karma from past lifetimes that we bring into this lifetime. And in astrology, what we call that is the north and south nodes of the moon. And those placements, it's a calculation of the moon. And in the chart, it looks like a horseshoe, an upside down horseshoe, and a top. The nodes, I've did a lot of research on it. That's our soul mission this lifetime, is the north node. And the south node is our past lifetimes and what our soul has already mastered. And when I open up an Akashic record reading for someone, the symbols and the energy and the things I see and feel always match the nodes, the south node and the north node. And so I do believe that certain things are meant to happen, and some things can be prevented. If for instance, it's all knowledge. Some things I know are going to happen no matter what I say or do. And I usually dream about those things. It's like, I get a glimpse of what's coming, but I'm not able to prevent it because it's meant to happen. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing will happen. And I'm like, sometimes I'll share with the person to give them a heads up. Are you doing okay? And I had a dream about you. And then and it'll happen. There's nothing that I can do. I've seen this in my life to prevent certain things in my own life or others. It happens, but I get a glimpse of it before. So that tells me there's destiny and fate with certain things. Mm-hmm. And then other times I've seen that you're able to prevent things by knowing and having an awareness of it. So let me give you an example. If I do a chart on someone when they're young, like 16, 17, that's the best, because if they have certain placements in their birth chart that are more difficult, like with relationships, marriage, partnership, I can give them tips and warn them, hey, I recommend you wait till you're a little bit older, later in life, to get married. Those are things that I can tell and share that might be able to prevent that person having the very most negative experience, right, of a placement, like Pluto in the 7th, right? Saturn in the 7th has certain, Neptune, there's certain things I can prepare them for, or I can also just validate how they may perceive and feel when they, were a child, what their childhood was like. You look at the 4th house, for instance, when there's a Pluto there or Uranus, there can be a very unpredictable, unsettling change in the home life, divorce of the parents, frequent moving, death of a loved one. There's things that can happen that I share with people, and most of the time they verify to me, yes, that happened to me. And so those things, I believe, are energies, and some of these energies can be prevented and can be worked on. When we know our chart, we know our strengths, and then we can use our free will to make better decisions, because our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors and everything, our actions, it's like your mind and your actions need to match, and our actions are creating karma. Our thoughts are creating energies that attract, we manifest things. But in a short answer, I believe it's both. We have free will, yes, and we can ignore our chart, but there's certain things, and we can resist it. We can say, you know what? I know I'm a North Node Scorpio, for instance. I can say I'm never going to be a Scorpio. I'm not doing it, and the universe is going to eventually knock me down and hit me with a 2x4, so to speak, which it has a couple times, to get me into the North Node and to get over being a Taurus, which is holding on to the past, not allowing change in my life, being stable, secure, and comfortable, and not changing, not taking risks. I'm forced to change in my life. And that's part of my North Node, and to embrace transformation, rebirth, all of that. And it's an uncomfortable feeling to embrace your North Node. It doesn't feel good. It can be painful, but it's best that if we know what our North Node is, and we know our moon sign, and we know our strengths, we can really start learning the traits and becoming more like our moon sign traits, and listening to the North Node and becoming like our North Node sign, and learning about the house, the area of life that the node is in and the moon is in, and really embracing those things and pursuing those things. If someone's North Node is in the 5th house of self-expression, I tell them, you need to be creative. You need to write, sing, journal, be an actor, actress, or express yourself. Do something that's creative. And so if we do that, we have better luck and we don't have to struggle as much. But there are some things in the chart that I see that are meant to happen. They're part of our soul contract, so to speak, because it matches the Akashic records. It matches what our life seal is, which is our soul mission this lifetime. And that energy, that same energy. And I won't even know someone. They'll email me for a chart, and all I have is their birth date, and information and their name. And I'll open up the record, and then I'll look at the chart after. I don't look at it first. And it's like, oh, wow. And it's like exactly what the chart says, the nodes specifically, like the mission of the person. And then when I talk to them, they're like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Or sometimes they're not there yet, because they're younger, and they haven't had a Saturn return yet. They haven't had these major astrological events that kind of spur us into our chart more and into why we're here. But as we get older, we move into our chart, our full chart, and we move into our node, our North Node, naturally. We're going to naturally get there, and the universe will ensure that we get there, and any way it can. But if we can do it on our own, that's using our free will, and that's just working towards it. But I do believe that most things are destiny. I do believe, we have free will to an extent. I think we have free will as far as believing in God, believing in a higher power. That's our own free will to pursue that, or question that, or research that, etc. But as far as the birth chart, it's our soul map. It's a map of the soul, is what I call it. Your birth chart.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. Now I got another question for you.
Yes.
My daughter has twins, but
Oh,
they
nice.
were born by cesarean section. And so I'm wondering if that has any effect or any margin for error. And then there is the other fact that they're paternal twins, and they couldn't be more different. But when I looked at their charts, because they're only 1 minute and 30 seconds apart, they basically have the identical chart. So I wondered if you could just speak to that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So typically when I see twins, there's two things with this. Usually if they're born, a couple hours apart, they can have slightly different aspects and energies, and different moon signs specifically, which is the emotional nature. So then you can really see, oh, they're one twin's very, could be a Scorpio moon, and the other twin's a Libra moon, or whatever, and they're very different. But when they're really like boom boom, like really close born, you have to look at their past lifetimes. Their soul has learned and mastered different energies and different experiences, so that they bring into the chart. So even though they have the identical chart, their experiences are going to be completely different. Their soul is a different soul. They're not the same soul. So they are going to have a different wisdom, different knowledge that they bring in. And that's why I think that some twins, even though they look alike and their charts identical, they're still different. They're different because of their experiences. They may have talents that they bring from past lifetimes, and one twin might not have that. Like one twin might be an artist and can draw, and the other can't. Or one might be able to play an instrument and the other struggles with that, or learn a language or whatever. And I see that a lot in twins charts that are identical like that. But typically the twins charts that I've done, they've had a different moon sign, or things have been slightly different. but I've done some where they've been almost identical as well.
You know, what's really interesting about my grandbabies is they were born, let's just say, unique, in my opinion. Of course, I'm their grandma, right? But one of them is born with this flaming red hair. And my daughter's great grandmother had flaming red hair. So my daughter named her after the great grandmother. But when the girls were about 2 years old, I sat down with them. Like, they've been able to understand everything you say. My daughter never spoke baby talk to them, always talked to them just like she would talk to anyone else. Me, I didn't do that. I talk baby talk to my kids. But anyway, so I sat down with them and I said to the little red-haired girl, I said, "Are you Granny Alice come back?" And she said, "Yes." Like, she understood what I was saying. 2 years old. How can they even know what I'm talking? She knew. And she said yes. And so what's really interesting is, I mean, we don't have expectations for them to be this way or that way. It's just a surprise when it happens. But I thought, oh my goodness, there's something about kids nowadays where they're so aware. And so anyway, it'll be interesting, to see how this plays out in their lives. And they have different skills, different talents. They seem very different, but in some ways, they're very much the same. They're extremely sensitive. And they're always wanting to experiment and discover. Maybe all kids are like that. I don't know. But I thought they were pretty amazing. So what I wanted to tell you, one of my big barriers to getting into astrology is that, to me, it seems very complicated. I look at all these symbols and nodes and houses, and I get really overwhelmed. Now, you were recommending your sun sign book for that, right? Can you tell us more about that and how it could help?
Yes, my sun signs book. I don't have a copyright here, but it's similar. It looks like this, but it's turquoise.
Oh, it's turquoise. I was going to say yellow, but turquoise.
It's turquoise blue, and it'll say sun signs, houses, and healing. And it looks just like this one, except this one's purple and it's moon. So it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And the cool thing about it is that I really wrote this book as a basic guide for anyone that doesn't know astrology or doesn't, understand it or likes it, but thought it was too complex. I wrote, or even a seasoned astrologers can also read my books, but I really wrote it in a very practical, hands-on way. And I know you read it. I think you did look at it, and you can see in my introduction chapter, I just break it down like I'm talking to you as a normal person. Because, sometimes astrologers, when they talk, I mean, even I'm an astrologer, but when I hear other astrologers talk, I get confused sometimes because they're like, zero degrees this, this is square this, that is part of astrology. And I just had someone, it's funny, I just had someone post in my astrology group. I guess they didn't like that my post was so basic. This just happened to me this week. And what they kind of, and it was kind of a negative comment. And I thought, well, I don't know if they're really meaning to be negative. So I'm gonna try not to take it personal. Mercury's retrograde. But it was like, there's so much more to just what planets in the 8th house. And they start, around stuff. And I said, of course, but this is a good basic start to understand these placements. So my goal is to make everything basic, to teach things on a simple level. I have people in there that don't even know how to do charts themselves. I'm not going to go into, well, this and that and this aspect and this and that. No, I'm like, sun in the 8th, this is what it means. Do you feel this way? Have you had these experiences of this energy? That's my goal. I'm not going to go in there and confuse everybody just to prove that I know more, that I'm smart and all this, intellectual. No, I want to make it very basic because I think it's such a powerful tool of self-awareness that I want other people to love it as much as I do and know that it helps me understand other people. It helps me, accept people for how they are and not try to change them. And it helps me understand myself and my weaknesses and things I need to learn and get better at, and my strengths. And so, my answer to that is, in my books, I talk about, I show all the symbols. I tell you what they are. I talk about how you do a chart, why it works, and you need, what you need. The 12 signs, their basic energies, the elements, there's fire, air, earth, and water. I talk about that. We talk about everything basic. And it's so basic, I say just go to, astro.com, and this is what you need: your birth date, year, time, place, pull up the wheel. Okay, now, you can go in my intro and look at the moon or the sun symbol and be able to look in my chapter, what planet is on my, what sun or house is my planets in, and I have a how every chapter talks about the planets in the first house, second, third, all the way. And then that sun sign, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, all of them. And it's very much their strengths, how they heal, how each sign is resilient, how each sign self-cares differently. And it's very much a psychological guide, like a basic tool. I'm not going to get into aspects and what does it mean to have this degree of this sign and all this stuff. You can buy books for that if you want to learn that. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to make astrology fun and make people interested in it, and where they don't feel overwhelmed by it, as you said, and teach it and make it very understandable how I explain these things.
The body thrives when it has a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change we wish to see in the world. Sometimes, though, we need a little help from consultation and support services. Have you discovered that this world is not what you thought it was? Have recent global events awakened you and leave you feeling unsettled? Do you feel isolated with your not-so-popular newfound beliefs? Would you like to learn to thrive in this new state of awareness? It is a big shock to wake up and find that the old familiar world is gone, and it can be disturbing to go down the various rabbit holes only to find that the information is difficult to digest, and few people are willing to talk openly about it. You are not a conspiracy theorist. You are awakening, and once you find your way through it, there are many blessings on the other side. My name is Karen Holton, and I offer vital services that may be just what you need, and support for your journey into the weird and wonderful. Check out my Awakening Support and Ascension consultation, created to support individuals with their chosen alternative realities and lifestyles, health and recovery, and spiritual adventures. For more details, check out the various vital services found on my website, and be assured that I have found personal success with every category featured. My website is www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com.
And that's what I do. And I get judged for it sometimes, Karen. I mean, like, that I am not certified in the, in certain.
Who cares about,
astrological.
Will always do that. And they'll go, oh, well, you can't be a crystal gem healer because you didn't go to this. Meanwhile, none of them are accredited.
Yeah, I know.
It's really kind of silly.
I know. And I'm a licensed clinical social worker, but I don't go around just saying that to everybody, right? I mean, that I am, and certified in energy healing and all kinds of stuff. But, I don't, I never took, 20 years of paid someone to say that I'm an astrologer. I taught myself. And everything I've done is from reading and putting a lot of effort and a lot of hours of work and research in doing charts for people and studying. And that's how I've got all of the information and experiences, real life experiences from real people with these placements is how I wrote my books, why I started my Facebook groups to help people that had certain 8th and 12th house placements specifically, and to give them hope and strength and let them know you're not alone. And my groups are support groups, and I just happen to be a social worker that's running the admin of the groups, but I let people share all kinds of stuff, and people, they're helping each other. And they're like, I have this Venus in the 12th. Am I ever going to find love? And then people write, and I share my videos and different things to help them, my books. And that's why I'm here. And, people either love me or hate me, Karen. I find that in my life.
Yeah,
And,
me too. Me too. People can't
yeah,
stand me or they just love me. It just seems to be one extreme or the other.
me too. Me too. And I have
Yeah.
so many wonderful people that I know really that are kind,
Yeah.
that care about me, and that I network with so many wonderful people all over the world. But then I have one or two that absolutely hate me for no reason, and all I've done is be nice and kind to them. So I've had to accept that. That's been a big learning for me. And that's part of being I think a 12th house sun and a Virgo, is I care too much about what people like in me or not. So I'm getting over that now as I get older. I don't
Good.
care. I don't care. It does kind of hurt me right away when I see a bad comment or somebody critical of something. But you know what? That's one person. I had like 50 others say thank you that it helped them. That's why I'm here, to help people. If it doesn't help you, just scroll through. Why do you have to post? If you don't resonate with it, just move on.
Yeah. Well, I think actually every time I get a negative comment, which is fortunately not that often, like 50 wonderful people to every one loser. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say loser, but you know what I mean. I've come to understand that they may not even be people. They might just be bots that just come on and just try to stir up stuff.
Well, that's true.
I don't know why they're there, but so now I just assume they're bots, and I have no problem. I don't take it personally at all.
That's a good idea.
I want to circle around back to trauma and healing.
Oh, yes.
So the first question I have, being you're a social worker, I've worked as a social worker. I'm wondering, in my belief system, trauma and healing are absolutely available to everybody. But there's some schools of thought think, oh, no, you can never get over those horrible things that happened to you when you were a child, this, that, and the other. Well, I know for a fact that you can, because I've overcome, my own and helped other people. But can you talk a little bit to, because a lot of people in modern society in the Western world, Carmen, they're traumatized. If it isn't from their birth process to their circumcision to their parents splitting up to mommy and daddy having, the gambit. And so there's so many people that are traumatized. And I think that's also a contributing factor to what's going on in the world, why societies are breaking down, because people are breaking down, and our society is only as strong as the people. So I'm wondering if you can, before you get into astrology and healing, can you talk a bit about, can we heal? Is that a realistic goal in people's lives?
Definitely. They always say, heal thyself, or whatever the quote is. And
physician, heal thyself. Yeah.
I do believe, I started getting into the mind-body connection and how our thoughts affect our body when I was about 19. I took some classes in the School of Metaphysics and learned about the chakras and the energy, of our body and our mind, and different illnesses and how they manifest, and read a lot of different books about that. And I started realizing, wow, we can heal ourselves. And I do believe that the number one thing is that we have to first acknowledge that we're wounded, and we have to feel the pain. We have to allow ourselves to feel the uncomfortableness and the pain of whatever the wounds are. And I recommend, people can do that in a safe and secure environment with a healer, a therapist, a counselor. But I recommend energy healers to a lot of people, because just a traditional talk therapy may not work for everyone. I believe everyone is unique in how they heal. For me, I do best when I try to do things on my own, like breathing exercises, meditation, visualization, energy healing, and going to, get Reiki done on myself has really helped me move a lot of things through, and talking to other people that have been through similar things, that also helps you heal. It's like the wounded healer. And that we look at in astrology, we look at Chiron for that, where is our Chiron and Pluto. But you know, we have all these tools that we can use. But some people, like people that have never read about astrology or Reiki or any of these things, they're just normal people, you know, like a lot of people I know. They work normal jobs and they never even think about any of these things. They think it's strange. You know, they're not open-minded to these things. I think a lot of those folks, some of them are coming around. And what happens is I find that when people get really sick and have something that the medical doctors can't figure out, that's when they start seeking alternative practices. And they realize it works. And sometimes it kind of takes something bad happening to open people's minds up in a way. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I call it raising the bottom. I guess that's a term from AA, which I used to go to, but I don't drink anymore. Actually, I don't have a drinking problem. I don't know what happened. I just gone and I don't ever think about it. So
good for you.
Yeah, I've come through a lot myself in my own life too. And I'm like you, I resolve things better alone. And I tend to isolate. And unfortunately, that's one of the first things counselors say: don't isolate. You got to be around people. I couldn't handle everybody else's stuff and mine.
Exactly.
So it was only when I started spending time alone and learning, who am I? Who am I? Never mind what I'm supposed to be and the roles I play. Who am I? And that striving for authenticity. And it's the most exciting journey. Yeah, you have to feel those yucky feelings. That's the only way to get through them. And then they fade over time. You know, that's been my thing. But I'm just wondering again, just for the audience,
sure,
how can astrology really help people when they're on these healing journeys?
Yes. So, you know, let's just, you know, talk about the sun signs, just the basic sun sign. There's a lot more to the chart. I don't want to confuse everybody, but, you know, let's start the basics. So sun sign, moon sign, just knowing those two things can really help you a lot. So the sun is your main personality identity. Each sun sign is going to have powerful strengths and they're going to have some weaknesses. So, you know, when you know about them, you know, you'll be able to use those strengths to heal. So for instance, Aries, you know, it's the first sign zodiac. They are this, you know, the go-getter, motivator, brave, courageous, blunt, straightforward, passionate. They are known to have a little bit of a temper. And I find, you know, with Aries, they're competitive. And so they want to win. And they don't like to be told what to do. They like their freedom. They like to, you know, their independence. So when they get something in life very traumatic happens to an Aries, they are very good in crisis situations. They're kind of the one that takes charge. Okay. And they're good at giving orders and taking care of people in crisis and everything else. And they tend to overcome trauma quicker than most signs because they're all about the future. Where am I going next? They don't stay stuck in the past. Their energy is about moving forward. So they're one of the most resilient astrological signs, sun or moon in Aries, because they're able to overcome. I've got the moon in Aries, and I will say that that's been true for me because of a lot of things I've been through. Because when I sit down and I think about what happened to me, you know, a couple of years, I had several things, a lot of loss of friends, unexpected, you know, very tragic. And I thought, how am I ever going to get over this? But I did. It's like I overcome things quickly, emotionally, that most people are like, wow, what? You went through that? Like they would never know. And so, and I don't go around sharing it unless, you know, there's a reason, but I thank God that I have an Aries moon. Okay. And that's helped me survive. And it's in the 8th house, which is very, very all about death, transformation, rebirth. So I'm able to transform and let go and have to let my emotions go and become a whole new person. And that's been painful, you know, but it's helped me heal because that's the house of healing as well. And wherever, you know, your energy is. So Aries heal quickly. And I find that they heal because they get angry. when things are
Anger's a
just,
powerful tool. It's my friend.
yeah, when they get angry, it makes them say, I am not going to let this kill me. I am not going to let this stop me from living my life and
Yes.
being happy. And they get pissed off, excuse my language, and they're like, I'm going to survive and forget
Mhm.
this. And I don't care what you think. And they can cut people off, and they'll go and I'm going to focus on the positive, because they're very thinking of the future, goal focused, goal oriented achievers, and they're quick, they're fast, and then you have Taurus, who's the second sign of the zodiac, the astrological sign. Tauruses takes them longer to heal because
Mhm.
they are earth, they are connected to the past. They're known to be stubborn and strong-willed, and they don't like change. They like
Mhm.
stability, they like comfort. And what is the most uncomfortable thing that we have to feel? Emotions,
Mm.
feelings, especially when they're painful. So Tauruses, they have to be more patient with themselves and don't rush healing. Aries can rush healing naturally. It just happens. But Tauruses might take a little more time for them to really truly overcome a traumatic experience.
Mhm.
And they need to nurture themselves, and they need to have security and comfort, and material financial security is one of the things they really need to feel well-rounded and safe enough to address uncomfortable things. And
Mhm.
so, they're very calm and patient, and a very sturdy, practical, grounded energy about them. So the practical and realistic personality traits of them help them with their emotions and kind of processing them, but they like things slow, like baby steps.
Mhm.
They're kind of like baby steps to healing, right? And eventually they will heal. And then each of the signs in my book, I talk about how these kind of things, how they heal, what personality traits do they use to help them heal and overcome trauma. And then I talk about just trauma in general. It's interesting because there's things that I feel like I've been trained, practically in trauma therapy, trauma counseling, all of these things, assessing trauma in the body, and the body keeps score. There's a book
Oh,
about that,
sure
and
does.
some training, and it's about how the breathing and relaxation are so important to us, in healing,
Mhm.
because we hold
Mhm.
tension in our body. So it's like that mind body connection. It really is powerful. And the conscious, I'm sorry, my puppy's barking.
No, that's totally okay.
I
I
think my
continue.
daughter.
We only have about 10 more minutes because I know
Okay.
you got to get back to work,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
want you to continue, please. It's fascinating
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. So this trauma, don't beat yourself up is what I want to say to listeners. When you feel like you have moved forward and you've healed something, it's normal to have memories of it.
Mhm.
It's normal. You may have a flash, or a song will bring up a past memory. But when those memories come up, there's not an intensity and overpowering negative reaction anymore. That
Mhm.
means you've healed it. You've healed it. It's just it's a part of you. It belongs to your story. So you may flash back and remember, oh yeah, that happened, but you know what, I'm okay now.
You don't
And
get devastated by it
no,
anymore.
yeah,
Exactly.
and you just can let it go. And I say, just let the memories come. Like if they come up when you're meditating, or when you hear a song, or when you're talking to someone else that tells you something similar that you also went through, you'll know. When you get stuck and you are really struggling, then you haven't fully healed some. But when it's okay, you're gonna have memories, because your body holds on to the memories, your experiences, good and bad. And so
Mhm.
don't beat yourself up. Do what you can do to really, talk to someone about it, if that helps you. Like a Gemini moon, Gemini sun, they heal through communication, talking about and analyzing their experiences, and talking about it verbally, being
Mhm.
social, having friends to share their problems with. That's how a Gemini heals. So every sign is going to heal differently. And in my books, you can learn the tips and see if they work for you, and research a little bit. But the biggest thing is to find what works for you. Some
Mhm.
signs, and I talk about this in my books, they cannot heal by meditation alone and breathing exercises. Like a Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio,
Aquarius,
yeah,
we got to move. We got to go for
yeah,
long walks.
yeah, they like movement. They like to feel free. They like to be open air, breathe, be able to have, outdoors and not be trapped. Sagittarius as well. They need to feel free and be able to move around and be assertive and say what they really think. But they need to have adventure and feel free. That's how they heal. And being positive. They're the optimists. So the Sagittarians get over things quickly too, because they focus on the glass is half full, not half empty.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them that I know are that way. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I know they'll complain for a minute with you and vent, and then like, but and then they'll correct you. They'll say, but there are some good things, right? And
Yeah.
then, and then, so each sign has its energy and its way of feeling things and feeling emotions and processing trauma. And I recommend, do what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's traditional therapy, like doing EMDR, cognitive processing therapy, those are research evidence-based programs that can help heal trauma, PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
etc. There's
Mm-hmm.
evidence and research that those modalities will help you overcome PTSD and trauma. But then there's some people that have overcome it by doing energy work, breathing exercises. There's a technique called the Havening technique, which is something I was just trained in, and it's self-care, it's to heal trauma, and you teach it to others, and it's just these body movements.
Mm-hmm.
You touch your hands, you touch your face,
Touch your face, touch your arms.
and that those parts of the body stimulate the brain, that pineal gland that tells you fight or flight, and it calms it. And so if you're feeling stressed, take a deep breath, and you can do these, just hug yourself, touch your hands. I that's a new technique I learned.
Beautiful and
It's
simple, and anybody can do it.
and it's
I think
evidence-based. Yeah.
I think self-regulation and self-soothing are so important, and it's not ever talked about by anybody. Now,
True.
because our time is getting short, Carmen, I
Yes.
just want to go over. So your sun signs book is like an introduction to astrology for those of us
Yes.
who feel overwhelmed. It will give us all the steps and all the information to make it very easy to understand.
Yes.
Now, the moon book, do you want to hold that up
Yes.
again? Yes, the moon sign one, from what I'm understanding, is about how each of us, depending on our astrological sign or signs, I guess, teaches us which of the different self-care modes are going to be most beneficial to us. So people who have had bad experiences, trauma, things like that, the moon signs book will help people with practical ideas on how to step out of that depending on their astrological sign. Now, do I have that right? And what would you like to add to that?
Oh, that sounds great. Yes, the sun and the moon are the two most important placements in your chart, and you don't have to know all the other things about your chart, be an expert. You can start with the basics, and I recommend starting with the sun signs, houses and heal, and moon signs book. Learn all about your sun and moon sign, then you can branch out, research other books and start learning more and memorizing the symbols if you really want to get into it. But once you know the basics, I mean, you can use my books to look up all your friends and family, once you know what their sun and moon sign is. And just know, don't shy away from astrology is my thing. There are books out there that are very basic and explain things that make sense, and more of a psychological tool. And that's my goal. And there's a lot of books out there about it, like even like major astrological transits that all of us go through at different ages of our life. There's books out there about that, about the Saturn return. There's books out there about, planets in retrograde, how that affects us. And so it's just, if you really want to learn it, you can put the time to read and listen to audiobooks, and all kinds of stuff. But just know that, to me, it's a powerful tool that can help us move forward, be resilient, which means having the ability to bend, not break, and the ability to move forward and overcome life challenges, because no one's life is perfect. We all have things in our life, our life may seem perfect on the outside, but no one knows what someone else is going through. It's kind of like that iceberg picture where this is what you see and this is what's really going on underneath the surface. And that's scary because people just judge people based on their outer appearance and their outer life. And in social media and everything. I mean, nowadays, it's like, fake book, right? Everybody's and you don't know people can really be struggling and no one would ever know. And I tell people, reach out to someone if you need it. Don't be ashamed to say you need to talk or need help, because that's how you become resilient, is asking for help. It's not a weakness, it's a strength to ask for help. And we all have friends, we all have family, we all have certain people. And I have total strangers message and IM me all the time that are rock bottom, that are struggling. And I give them advice and I help them. I don't charge them. I don't try to, let me do your chart. No, I just say, hey, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm sending you good energy. Just being kind. Being kind to people. We don't all have to agree and believe the same things. But I tell you what, I don't judge anyone. I don't judge them because of what they believe. And I would hope that people don't judge me based on, the fact that I'm an astrologer, because they don't know enough about it or about me. If you know me, then they know the kind of person you are is what matters, and how you treat people. It's kind of the golden rule that Jesus talked about. He said, don't judge others because you'll be judged, right? So I'm like, people tell me, I've heard people believe in some really things that are really out there, and I'm pretty open-minded, right? But I don't judge them. I'm like, you know what? If that's your thing, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. And I accept you. And I think I'm not going to, treat you differently because of something you believe in.
I agree. I believe we each have our own journey. They're unique, they're special, they're valuable, and they're also sacred. I believe that each one of us, our journey is sacred. And to live a life well examined and well lived with the best we have, with the tools we're given and the circumstances, is the best we can do. Now, Carmen, for those that are listening to this as an audio podcast, do you want to say where people can find you? Sure. Now, all the links will be in the description below, but if you just want to say, for those that just want to write it down because they're listening.
Sure. You can reach me. I got a new website. I've been putting a lot of work into. It's www.carmenturnerschott.com. SCHOTT, CarmenTurner-Schott.com. You can also find me. Please follow my YouTube channel. Would love to follow me, Carmen Turner-Schott, SCHOTT on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Deep Soul Divers Astrology, and then my name, Carmen Turner-Schott. I'm also got a page, Carmen Turner-Schott Author, on Facebook. You can follow me, and then I got an Instagram, Carmen Turner-Schott Author, and a normal Instagram page. You can follow me. Those are the main things I use. I'm not really on Twitter that much or anything like that, but you can contact me through my website. There's a contact page, and I'll write you back. And if you want to consult, if you want to join my Facebook groups, they're also on my website with the links of my 12th house astrological group and my 8th house astrological group. And we have people from all over the world, 15,000 people that have planets in those houses or just interested in learning more about astrology, and they join my group. So welcome to join. And I'm the admin of those groups, and it's a support group atmosphere for learners, beginners, advanced astrologers, whoever wants to learn, and join us. So thanks for having me, Karen. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend this time with us. I appreciate you so much. And I wish you the best of success. So everybody get on to Barnes & Noble, get over to Amazon and pre-order your book. So it'll come on May the 8th. And Carmen, thank you so much again. And thank you everybody for joining us on the Quantum Guide Show. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us on the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels. Like this video and share it with your friends. You can also find the Quantum Guide Show and my other podcast called Aliens and Astrology on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. That's www.forbidden forbiddenknowledge.news. And while you're at it, check out my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, where you will find some amazing products and services and an abundance of free resources to help you with your journey. All of the links are in the description below. And in the meantime, until we see you next week, keep up the good work.
Splendor and endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest. For time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less. And the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul, I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion,